When I was 9-ish, I had a bedroom that was decorated insanely by the landlord. Bright pink flowered wallpaper, and one wall had like 50 small, square-shaped mirrors on it that made one big mirror. My parents had put my bed against that wall, making the mirror a sort of headboard. One night, I woke up with the insane feeling that I needed to move. It was like someone quite literally spoke to me. You need to move. So I did. I grabbed my pillow and moved to the end of the bed, legs curled up close to my body. Not 2 minutes later, half the little mirrors fell onto my bed, right where my head would have been. Broken glass everywhere. That was the first time I've ever experienced the gut feeling, and one of my most vivid memories as a child. Or it was a ghost. If so, thanks, ghost. My face isn't horribly scarred. This same thing happened to my friend when we were kids. She said something startled her awake, making her immediately sit up in bed. Like 30 seconds later, the shelf directly above her bed that was full of hardcover books broke off the wall and landed on her pillow. Her dad said it probably made a sound before it broke off that scared her awake, but who knows? Side note, she's a librarian now, so I guess that night didn't scare her away from books. I had horrible anxiety for a good 24 hours. Then I found out my brother, who lived 1,000 miles away, had died. My body somehow knew he was dying. I had a similar experience. My father had been in and out of the hospital for almost 5 months, violently ill, and hadn't left for the final couple. He had just been diagnosed that week with pancreatic cancer and given maybe 6 months. And I'm sitting in homeroom while they're doing the morning announcements on the intercom, and I'm staring out the window by my desk. I suddenly feel like my gut dropped through my asshole, and I burst into tears. It was silent, but I wrote on a piece of paper I needed to use the restroom because I couldn't speak with the lump in my throat, and handed it to my teacher. He looked at my face and told me, "Go." I got to the restroom across the hall and absolutely crumbled. I had no idea what had come over me. I was crawling of my skin, anxious, absolutely full-bodied, sobbing now, a puddle of a person on the floor. Turns out my social studies teacher heard my cries and came in and scooped me off the floor, doing her best to try to figure out what was wrong, and all I could sputter was, "I don't know." She brought me back across the hall once class had been sent to first period at gym. My homeroom teacher hugged me, sat me down, and told me all about his wife, who had been knowingly battling for about a year at that point. He was the absolute best, and both teachers did a fantastic job with this blubbering child going through something she didn't even understand. As soon as I saw my mom at the bus pickup, it confirmed what I had been suspecting but couldn't believe. Somehow my body knew when he was gone. I hadn't even been able to see him in months by then. I lost control at 9:06 a.m., the moment he passed. It's been over 20 years, and I'll never forget that feeling of overwhelming dread absolutely taking me out. I was 17 years old at the time, driving a route I had frequently driven. For some reason, I had a strong gut feeling to get out of the lane I needed to be in and go down to the next light, missing the original exit and adding 5 minutes to my commute to the grocery store. Decided to trust the gut feeling, got in the left lane. I continued driving and had to go a back street to get to the parking lot that would have been a straight show the other way. Leaving the store about 20 minutes later, I look over to the exact spot that I was previously in when I felt I needed to be moved. A tractor trailer had collided with another tractor trailer, accordioning a vehicle in the middle. The car in the middle was the vehicle that was driving directly behind me when I decided to take the longer way. I remember so vividly because I think we were both listening to music and bobbing to the beat. Her car was squished to the point you couldn't see the front from the back, like a literal pancake. I still think about that poor woman often, because that accident should have been me. My mom and I were heading back from a doctor's visit she had in the next city to our west. On the way back, the highway was really backed up, so we decided to just take the back roads. We take the next exit and head south until we come across a road we know that runs east-west and back to our town. We turn east, which by all logic should return us to our town. 15 to 20 minutes later, we end up back like 2 streets over from where her doctor's office was. We were really confused how that happened, seeing as we should have only been going east. We got back on the highway, took the same exit, made the same turn onto the same road, ended up exactly where we were supposed to the first time. I have no fucking clue what happened or how, or what I did different, if anything. Have tried recreating a couple of times since, but every time, it's taken me east the way it's supposed to. We used to just tie each other to a bunk bed with my dad's hammock ropes, and we would either have to escape or be stuck there until one of our parents found out and yelled at us about what would happen if there was a fire. Oh, and speaking of the hammock, my sisters and their one friend used to have a game that was just, everyone run at the hammock and try to jump in at the same time. It was a shitty camping hammock secured by a single rope on either end, and it was above a concrete pad. They regularly got spun around by their momentum and flung directly at the concrete. Honestly, IDK how we survived to adulthood. Grew up in a New England state that got a shit ton of snow, where we invented snow sketball. That's where you take a basketball and take turns doing your best trick shots toward the least convenient parts of the snowdrifts at the edge of the river valley, then scream, "Snow sketball!" and all race toward the fence. Last one to hurdle over the fence has to wade into the snow to find and retrieve the basketball while being aggressively heckled by the rest of the players. We didn't have a lot to do out there, okay? Cousins would do this thing called speed to the G's. When we went to our grandparents' ranch, there was this massive, dangerous-ass drop to get there in the road. Think of the steep till you can think of that you could still reliably drive a car up and down. These dumbass kids would try to goad whichever adult into speeding down this hill as fast as possible. Remember one time we went down so fast, despite being buckled in, we were all flying out of our seats before abruptly crashing back down. The car hit this massive jerk on a dip at the bottom. Decades later, they finally changed it because some people apparently died on the death trap. On a more humorous note, there was this weird shared joke. We'd start a story but punctuate it by saying, "a long, 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 long time ago," while kicking the back of the seat in the car. It was so stupid but always funny. My very first day of my sophomore year at a new high school, in my first class in the morning, a girl came over and wrote her number and a little text me with a smiley face on the page of the textbook I was looking at. I was completely flustered. I hadn't even had my first kiss yet. I had talked to a few girls at that point, but never gone beyond that, because I was a coward. Did that change when she wrote her number in my book? No. I never texted her. Not that year, at least. Another time she came up to me in the hall and asked if I wanted her to front me an oz of weed to sell or something, and I said nah. We finally ended up hanging out during winter break of my senior year after I posted a Facebook status, "Who wants to smoke?" or something like that, and she messaged me saying she wanted to, and I said all right, and she got some random person to drop her off at my house around 10 p.m. Long story short, about 7 months later, I had my first real relationship-related heartbreak. Good times. Funnily enough, we ended up matching on Tinder about 4 years ago, and she didn't even realize it was me. Things came full circle. It was indirect, but I'm gonna tell it because it was so unexpected. I was on a dinner cruise with friends for New Year's. I was talking to a random woman near me during dinner, debating whether I wanted to pursue her, but there was a woman at another table who was drop-dead gorgeous wearing a red dress. Dinner ended, dancing started, and lots of people went to the restroom. At that moment, the woman in red's friends accosted the women in our group and said, "Our friend wants your friend." A minute later, at least 3 women each physically grabbed me and the gal in red and physically push/drag us across the dance floor and shove us into each other. It was a great night. My girlfriend sent me a friend request on Facebook back in around January 2014. I saw that she was very attractive, but didn't think you much about it. She liked the odd post here and there, but didn't say anything, until one day in late March, I posted a notification about Black Sabbath playing in Hyde Park in London in the summer of that year. It was then that she commented that she'd like to go, but she couldn't afford the plane fare, so she'd have to swim. I replied that she could stay with me if she could come over, and there'd be no strings attached. Anyway, we went to PM, messaging to me asking if she Skyped. She said she did, so I called her up, and I saw the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. It took 9 months before we finally met, and we've met a few times since then and even lived together for 3 months at a time when she's been here. We have our ups and downs and drama like many relationships, but we love each other to bits and hate saying goodbye to each other. It's been almost 12 years and have kind of broken up a couple of times, but we're still going strong and I still fancy her after all this time. I couldn't see myself wanting to be with anyone else.